best way to try avocado. He had never even tasted an avocado before. Now, as you can imagine, as a dietitian, I'm like, how do you go your whole life? How do you go 40 years, and never had guacamole?
Well,
never had avocado, slices on something.
In fairness, avocados have really taken off in the last few years.
Okay. Well, in the last few years, how could you have not had, avocados from Mexico, the commercial or whatever it may be? So we started going through the conversation with him, and it ended up being a texture thing, a sort of visual texture, because you can't say it's a taste thing if you've never tried it. So I think the fear of guacamole, just looking at it for him, was not going to be the way to go. We really honestly didn't come up with a way to introduce avocado to him other than just, close your eyes and lick it, so to speak. But it got me curious. I wonder how many presumable healthy vegetables or fruits, vegetables, foods, whatever it may be, that, are available to us. I'm not necessarily talking about strange things that are, not really found in your local grocery stores that maybe you pass by all the time or have heard about, but just genuinely have never tried. And there's some really interesting ones coming over on the Facebook group, but we also want to open up the C Spire text line for you to jump in, 601-879-4395. So, Rhino, what would it be for you? Because we both were trying to figure out, for both of us, have we never... I feel like I've tried almost everything.
Yeah, I've given everything a shot and didn't care for the vast majority of it. But we finally landed on one that I've heard of. I didn't realize it was like a health food.
It's a fruit.
Well, that's one of those things where I just walked right by it thinking it was something else. Kumquats. I've never had a kumquat to my knowledge.
We're going to have to fix that because kumquats are delicious. If you don't know what we're talking about, think of it as a mini orange that looks like a grape. That's the most. If a grape was an orange in size and shape.
Which makes sense why I would have walked right past it, because usually I want a fruit to be able to be like an apple size. Like I want to feel like I've got something if I'm eating a fruit.
Well, this also lends this conversation to how many barriers we put up to the foods that we choose to purchase or buy or even try. And I recently found, too, I think there was something that came down that 75% of food globally, so this is coming down to us, only comes from about 12 plants and 5 animals. So even though we live in the most, connected world ever, where you have the different sort of fruits and vegetables that can be grown all over the world and shipped in, vice versa, and all that. Still, the world is pretty minimal in the varieties that are available in terms that we bring home and put on our plate. And if you brought that down to the individual level and you got real honest with yourself, I guarantee your family probably eats 5 to 7, I'll give you 10 just for good measure, but 10 recipes or 10 dinners on rotation all year long. And some of those come into rotation with the different seasons, but then they stay in that rotation and then they sort of go out. We are not a variety kind of eater. And then it depends on what your family enjoys, on what your variety is, right?
Right.
Because I too, if you come from a certain, type of family, like for my mother-in-law, God love her. But if you asked my family, my in-laws, my sister-in-laws, and my husband, what does your mom cook? They will name out 3 things. And if we're going to go visit her on a Sunday afternoon, we're getting one of those 3 things to eat. And it's just those are her go-to sort of all-time sort of meals. Do you feel that way, Rhino? Do you sort of feel like you eat the same things all the time?
It's funny this comes up because I was actually having this conversation with my roommate. There are literally maybe a dozen, probably 10 eating establishments or meals that are just go-to. And it seems like anytime it's, what are we going to do for supper? That list just gets run down a couple times until we land on something that, oh yeah, that'll work. So I want to make a wheel to where we just make it a chant, make it random, just make a little wheel to spin it, and then whatever it lands on, because we know we're happy with all of them.
Yeah. Well, and then what stops you from branching out when you're hungry like that and trying a new restaurant or trying something different? I always admire people who are very adventurous with, going out to eat or buying foods at the grocery store, because for the most part, most of us just get what we like, and it's usually conditioned from the way that we were raised or what we've had, as a child, or you were introduced to some of these new healthier foods that we're talking about today on Good Things, which I'm just asking you, what's a health food that maybe you've never tried before? Nothing funky and weird, something you could see in your local grocery store. You've just never tasted it, so you've never bought it. But if you went to like a recipe demo, or you had the opportunity for somebody else to fix it at a potluck, and you gave it a chance because there was no reason not to. It was given to you, kind of like the gentleman on JT's show who was gifted the lamb, right? It's like you were gifted it, you might as well experiment with it. There's no skin, you don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. But we're so less likely to do that if we're just going through the grocery store with our own cash and dime, knowing that we're probably not going to get back to the grocery store till next week. You don't want to buy something you're not going to like, because Chris, mentions quinoa, which we've talked about several times here on Good Things. He said, basically, because I just don't know how to prepare it. So it's not that he's unwilling to try it. It's just that he doesn't want to buy it and watch it sit in his cabinet, which I would say all you do is it's a 1-to-1 ratio with water. So a half a cup to half a cup of water, or maybe it's 1 to 2. Read the directions on the back. But you want to soak it first for like 15 minutes, and then you boil it like
So you cook it like rice?
Yes. Yep. And then it fluffs up. So there shouldn't be any, it's like rice. It should absorb the water. And then you have this nutty little protein pack.
I've never made it. I've had it.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah,
Okay.
it's very easy, but it can be extremely, a little intimidating. For me, I won't say I never had tried it before. I've had I have had stove popped popcorn before, but I had never popped popcorn on the stove before.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's so much fun. And so I was a little skeptical with it, having our little crop to pot.
One of those.
One of those B words. Oh, me. Our friends who brought it to us. But anyway, and so I typically do it in the microwave, and I thought, nope, I'm going to give it a try on the stove. And it's so easy, and it's so delicious. So you can actually be very rewarded when you branch out and you try new things. But you can't. Go ahead.
The next step on that is to make the candy corn or the caramel corn.
Yes, that's the next step. I've got to try that.
Because really all you do is you just add sugar to what you already did, and voila, it's done.
Well, where does the caramel come from?
It's the melted sugar.
Ah.
Yeah, you literally, you just add a teaspoon or two of sugar if you just want to start out. I mean, you can go crazy with the sugar, but you got to make sure you got enough oil. But then you just make sure you keep shaking it and tossing it. But it's the same exact thing you do popping popcorn. You just add the sugar, and now you're popping caramel corn.
Well, now that's pretty cool. And someone mentioned I'm 48 and never tasted one either. Is that the kumquat or the avocado?
The avocado.
The avocado. All right. And someone also says chia seeds. You grow Bob Ross hair with them. Yes. I don't recommend trying those. I haven't yet found a purpose for them, other than for Bob Ross's hair. Although they say they have lots of health benefits, I can't get behind the taste. I can't help you there. I've tried them, but I don't buy them.
All you need is terracotta soaked overnight and then smear them on there.
Yeah. So you can let us know what's a healthy food you've never tried. 601-879-4395. But how about trying this? Popsicles with penguins. We're going to tell you how coming up next.
This is Good Things
I discovered it in carpool.
with Rebecca Turner
It's legitimately amazing.
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
2, 3, 4. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
Welcome back to Good Things. I'm Rebecca Turner. We're going to continue our conversation of healthy foods you've never tried before and why, while we wait on our Pops and Penguins to call us. But that's cool. I've got from Huey from Raymond on the C Spire text line said, pomegranates. Would you know how to eat it or what it would be used with in cooking? So if you've never had a pomegranate, it's a funky looking fruit. It's fairly expensive, so I get why you wouldn't just jump to it, so to speak, in terms of trying it. But I typically either buy them already seeded, I pay the little extra money, or I buy the juice already done, whatever it may be. But if you do find yourself getting a better price with buying the whole pomegranate, then I learned tricks this past holiday season, because I think they're slowly going out of season in terms of the actual fruit. But I think you can get the juice year round, that Palm Wonderful, whatever it may be.
Oh, yeah.
So you take the pomegranate, you fill you like a bowl of water in your sink, and you roll the pomegranate like you would a lemon, just like you're going to loosen up a lemon to juice it and get it good. You're loosening up those seeds, and in fact, it gets a little fun if you are someone who likes those kinds of sounds, because you can literally hear the pomegranate seeds sort of loosening inside the shell, or whatever you call it, the skin. And then you just cut it in half or in fourths or whatever you want to do. And over that bowl of water, you'll start to take your fingers and just pluck those seeds sort of out, and they fall into the water. Now, why the bowl of water helps you is when you cut it, you'll notice that a lot of juice sort of comes out of it naturally, and it's bright red, and it can actually make a big mess. But if you do it into the bowl of water, you are making it less messy. So then you can strain the water off of the seeds, because they float to the bottom or top. I can't remember. But anyway, they float, and they're not going to go out of a strainer. And now you have washed seeds without all the, messy cleanup that you would have on your countertop if you tried to do it there. It becomes looking like a murder scene, so to speak. So how would you use them if you've never bought a pomegranate before to utilize the seeds? I love them over oatmeal, yogurt. You can put it in ice cream too if you really wanted to, if you weren't a yogurt kind of person. You can add them to salads, to wraps. They are tarty and crunchy, and they're pretty. And so really that's why people put them in.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with what the seed looks like, it looks like a mix between a ruby and a piece of corn.
Yes. Now, if you want to buy the Palm Wow juice, I think that's the only brand I've ever seen, not to give them.
Yeah, I think they kind of have the market on that one.
Yeah, but it looks like the little, the two, like a snowman or whatever.
It looks like traditional Japanese gourd. I forget the name they gave those now. I just went blank. But yeah, it's a style of bottle that I believe is traditionally Japanese. I could be wrong about the country of origin too, but it's a bottle that used to be used for generations.
So it can be utilized for smoothies for sure, if you want to add just a little bit of color, taste, and texture. But I really like them in mimosas and for booze purposes, because it has a very strong flavor and a very small amount. But you could definitely add it to, and I've seen people put like a fourth a cup or less in with unsweetened tea, and so it adds flavor to your unsweet tea without adding like added sugar, so to speak, because it's natural sugar, and gives it your tea a completely different flavor. You can also do that to your water or sparkling water for sure.
Out of the fruit flavored teas, because I prefer sweet tea. Just give me sweet tea, maybe with some lemon or some lime, but that's about it. Pomegranate, more than peach, more than raspberry, more than any of those fruits they throw in tea, pomegranate actually does taste good.
Yes, they do.
I don't understand peach tea.
What do you mean you don't understand peach tea?
It doesn't taste right to me. I feel like I'm halfway between a tea and a nice peachy drink. Like, a nice peach drink would be nice. Like a peach smoothie would be great. Sweet tea's great. When you mix the two, it's like, why did you go half and half on this?
Well, That's true. But
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I feel like there's not enough peach flavor.
maybe so. But peach is really making a come back or come up or whatever you want to call it in the world of beverages because there's tea. And now if you've gone, I really do sound like a lush, but I'm really not that bad of one. I'm sure there's always been peach-flavored vodkas. But now Crown Royal has a peach-flavored Crown Royal, which, I mean, why? I don't know. You could always just add whatever. But it caught my eye, and I thought, well, that must be interesting.
That's new.
That's new, right? Why peach? Of all the different sort of flavors you could have chosen. But the makers of Crown Royal weren't standing there that day, so I didn't get the opportunity to ask. Okay, Ruth and Grenada, you may I thought that was a whole list of healthy foods you had never tried before. However, I can hang with the ones that you added. So beets, you're not alone with this. So sticking to the question today, if you want to jump in on it, you can. It's just what's a healthy food you've seen in your grocery store, not weird, creepy online, that you've just never tried because you don't know what to do with it. And so I will admit beets would be a fair one to throw into this. They are very nutritious for you, but they are a booger to prepare at home. So if you were going to introduce beets into your repertoire, I would say go canned and then add them to salads like you would see at a salad bar, which is funny to me because when you go to like a real legit Shoney's type salad bar or, like a steakhouse or
I love
whatever.
that that's the level of legit.
Sonny's was the first, like, Sonny's or Shoney's. Maybe I meant Shoney's was the one I meant, not Sonny's. I was close. There's an S, there's an N, there's a Y. There's just the H that was missing. Anyway, they had that legit salad bar in the beginning, and many of us were introduced to beets via salad bars because you get them by accident. You're like, what is this red, bright little roundy thing? And there's two ways they can come on a salad bar. They can come like a little bouncy ball, or they come like disc-like, talking about canned beets. And depending on, I guess, the way you eat with your eyes or whatever.
How much you're willing to branch out?
How much you're willing to branch out depends on. So I really don't have recommendations for cooking beets because they are a booger. Haven't learned a way to not like ruin whatever it is you're wearing. I know there's ways out there, but to me that's just too hard to work. I would recommend if you're ever in a restaurant and they have them on the menu, give them a try. They really are delicious if they're roasted, but you could always try them canned. But that is one of those weird health foods I just don't feel is practical for our everyday kitchen lifestyle. I'll give you that. Now, is it rhubarb or
Yes.
rutabaga? So which one is rhubarb? Is it the root of the turnip or is that a rutabaga? I can't remember. Whatever the root of the turnip is, I want to say it's I know you're Googling over there faster.
Rhubarb looks like red celery with
Okay.
spinach on top.
You could totally saute that up, but the rutabaga, you can actually eat that raw.
Rutabaga is turnip root.
Yes. Don't ever throw that away and give it a try. If you are into eating like raw carrots, broccoli, whatever you're packing in your healthy lunch to eat with like ranch dip or whatever, hummus or whatever it may be, my father-in-law introduced me to rutabaga raw. And you have to wash the sides and sort of shave off the outside of it, kind of like a carrot, And then you just slice that bad boy up, and it eats kind of like a beet does. Not a beet, excuse me, not a beet, a radish. They're both red and round. You like where I go with this? A radish that has that spice to it, and it has that crunch where the outside's a little harder, but the inside has that sort of, texture to it. And it adds a unique array to your vegetables you're taking if you like to sort of eat them raw in that way. I hope that helps, Ruth. Mike from Grand Bay says, beets, yuck, even pickled ones. They are an acquired taste. Pickled beets are really good, though, Johnny in West Point says. We are a peat-divided good things family here. I like them. I like beets. I don't like cooking them. I will never purchase them to prepare at home because they are just too hard. Don't know if it's healthy or not, but have never tried plantain bananas. You know what? I found one.
You never had plantains?
I don't think I've ever had plantains.
They're just a big,
I've
more
never
savory banana.
I know I've never bought one. I've never spent money on one.
They're a
What
lot
would you-
better cooked.
What would you do with it?
The only way I've ever had it was similar to Bananas Foster, where it's just this sweet slurry of oil and sugar, and you slice it and cook it in that. And it was really tasty. It's like a really big banana. There's just more to it.
Now we found two. So the plantain bananas I've never tried. And then those little bitty baby bananas that you find next to the organic bananas that you should pass and just buy the regular bananas at your grocery store. I've never understood who wants a baby banana. Right? Like, I mean, the little bitty banana? What's it good for? You need like 3 of them to put on a piece of toast or cover yogurt. All right, the C Spire text line is starting to light up like a Christmas tree, so that's great. So you can jump in, 601-879-4395. Let me know a healthy food you have never tried before.
Now back to Rebecca Turner.
One of the most enlightened people in the world.
This is Good Things. Good Things on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
When you hear this song, you can't but do the little thing with your hands to either side. What do they call that dance? There's got to be some sort of, if you were watching on YouTube, you would see my white girl moves. I look like a dog trying to paddle.
Maybe that's what it's called.
Maybe that is what it's called.
Dog paddle.
I don't know, but whatever this song is, it just makes you want to, whatever that is. Yeah, it's a good thing. All right, next week, you got the Gallows Show. It will be on the road at the Mississippi Coast Coliseum and Convention Center on Wednesday. They'll be promoting the Connected for Success Winter Conference. It is centered around the state's early childhood work. You can learn more about the state's work in Standard Comprehensive Quality Center model by visiting the State Early Childhood Advisory Council website. That is secac.ms.gov. Or you can just tune in on Wednesday or stop by the Coast Coliseum and say hi to Paul from 6 to 9 a.m. Now, before we get back to helping you know how to eat those healthy foods that you've never tried before, or convincing you to try them, so to speak, over on the Good Things Facebook group, I did post another article. Or I post articles all the time. I don't just ask questions. So that's why we would love to have you there. But I saw that the BBC America came to Mississippi to film, and they call them fireflies.
The BBC.
In the Firefly Star in documentary. Now, it's a beautiful photo. I highly encourage you to head on over there and see it. If you think of lightning bugs in a field at night in Mississippi, and then having the perfect opportunity to catch multiples lighting up at once, it really is a phenomenal photo. But what got me tickled was how many of you went straight to correcting the fact that it's not fireflies, that it's lightning bugs. Is fireflies, though, the correct terminology for them?
I'm pretty sure they're interchangeable.
They're interchangeable. Anyway,
I think fireflies is the more accepted, like more widely accepted term, and lightning bugs is the colloquial term, but it's colloquial to this area. So
yeah, I mean, and if you're listening to Good Things, you've had an opportunity. If you grew up in the state of Mississippi, you know, as a kid trying to catch a firefly or a lightning bug. And I don't know, did anybody call them fireflies? I scratched my head and I was like, ooh, lightning bugs. And then I was reinforced by you commenting as well that it was ludicrous for them to call them fireflies. But anyway, it's a really cool story. You should check it out. And it's cool to see that Mississippi's getting celebrated for something fun that we all not take for granted, but enjoyed as our childhood, or at least pass that on. Some things we do take for granted, though, are those healthier foods in the grocery store that you don't know what to do with. Okay, so someone on the C Spire text line was talking about, where did it go? Here we go. Rutabagas. So apparently, and you know that is the root of a turnip, you can prepare a rutabaga exactly like you make mashed potatoes. So I've never done this. I wouldn't know how long you would have to maybe boil it down or cook it down to get it soft enough to mash. But they said it tastes exactly like mashed potatoes. And obviously, it's going to be lower in calories and carbohydrates for you as well.
I'm going to give a shot at this Latin, the Lampyridae.
What's that?
It's a soft-bodied beetle commonly called fireflies or lightning bugs.
Oh, you totally threw me off the...
For their conspicuous use of bioluminescence during twilight.
Well, that sounds like a love triangle waiting to happen. Richard from Wigan says, makes good glow-in-the-dark face paint. Cool. You've squished a firefly?
And if you squish it when it's lit, it stays lit.
No.
Temporarily.
Really? Y'all evil people.
I didn't squish it and put it on my face. I'm just speaking from experience. You're driving down the road and, fireflies. Smack one hits the windshield and it's still glowing.
Oh, I like how you course corrected there real quick there, Rhino. If you caught a firefly or a lightning bug,
I never actively tried to kill it. I mean, sometimes as a kid you get...
Richard and Wiggins, I'm ashamed of you. I genuinely had never heard of squishing lightning bugs for your own enjoyment or pleasure or whatever it may be. They're beautiful. Leave them alone. Put them back out there. We need more fireflies in the world. Okay. I know Jim from Ripley, rutabaga is not a turnip. Same type of plant, but definitely it's not the same. I know that, but anyway, so you have the rutabaga. So apparently you can do things with the rutabaga. It was cauliflower before cauliflower took over mashed potatoes. Has anybody else tried rutabaga? I wouldn't even call them mashed potatoes, but mashed rutabaga. Mashed rutabaga that tastes like potatoes, because I would totally give this a try if you can tell me how to do it. I don't know. We'll see.
Darren and Jackson ask on the C Spire text line, what is jicama? Never tried that.
Well, don't ask me. What
Jicama
is it?
Mexican potato. It's just different enough from a regular potato like you're used to be its own thing, but similar enough to where you kind of cook it the same way. Mm-hmm. And it just adds a starchiness to dishes. It's a Mexican potato, essentially.
Going back to the beet conversation, though, someone is sharing that you can actually now get pre-cooked beets in the grocery store in the little fancy section at some stores. And so it takes all of the having to prepare them off the table for you. And they said you can, I think it's a she said that you can just pop them in the microwave for 20 seconds and then you can just eat them however, or season them and eat them however you want. So there you go, if you want to try beets. And then someone mentioned eggplant, simply gross. Just the name alone sounds disgusting. I will give you that.
Well, that just comes from what
The way
it
it
looks like
looks
when
like.
it's growing.
But when you think about eggs and plants, you don't really want, necessarily an eggplant. And if you don't know what to do with an eggplant, you can mess up an eggplant at home cooking it yourself. Obviously, the first thing someone would say is try, fried eggplant or eggplant with Parmesan or whatever it may be. But there are great ways that you can take them and stuff them and then bake them and then eat them sort of that way. My mom knows how to roast them really well. I've never mastered that. I'm kind of like the one on the text line. It comes out sort of brown and mushy if you overdo it or underdo it. But there are ways to get eggplant into your diet that's not that hard.
From the 662 on the C Spire text line, I ate sliced beets from a can growing up. There you go.
Yes. What'd you eat them with? Just from the can? I'm curious how you got introduced to that. There's not many families. In fact, I have a can of beets. There's no telling how old it is. In our cabinet at home, it's one of those, I should probably start eating those on salads moment. And then you buy it, and then it sits there, and you don't want to donate it to the canned food drive because, do you really want to get that?
If you really want to get crazy, you mentioned radishes earlier. You can get pickled radishes that go well with like rice and Asian soups.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It adds just a nice complementary flavor to the rice. It's interesting.
I like Bo from Gulfport's text message. He said, to make sure we try new things, anytime my daughter and I go on vacation, we will not eat something we have at home. Not always healthy, but it keeps us cultured. I think that's cool. Hey, kudos. I don't know how old your daughter is, Bo, from Gulfport, but kudos to you to be able to instill that early to try new foods. Because right now I think my daughter would starve if we went on vacation. And I told her she had to try. We're also in that
testing boundaries phase.
Yes. And so, starve, kid, I don't care. But you'll eat if you get hungry.
My family had a similar rule. Like, believe it or not, I used to play soccer. That's why I love soccer. But playing soccer as a kid and traveling around to like tournaments or something, you go to different places, and that was one of those things. Like, well, we could go here, here, here. And I'm like, we got that at home. Let's go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct. Or I still scratch my head. My mom, she's not she doesn't enjoy Mexican food. She doesn't like the large servings. but we'll go to a Mexican restaurant. She'll order a hamburger, and it aggravates me. I'm like, you can find a taco or something on this menu to enjoy. We're at a Mexican restaurant.
She'd like it's got different names everywhere. The happy plate, the rice with the meat and the cheese. Mm-hmm. Everybody likes that.
Everybody likes that.
How could you not? It's got everything good about Mexican. The rice, the white cheese, the fajita meat, the skillet grilled veggies, lard, everything you could want from Mexican.
I would say somebody here on Good Things, when we were talking about Mexican at some point in life, mentioned you can get a healthier happy plate because you ask for the sauce on the side. So if you are trying to do better, then you get the steamed rice, the chicken, and then you get the cheese on the side, and then you get to choose how much goes on, because usually they're very
generous.
They're very generous with it, which makes it good. Not healthy though, but still very good. Alrighty, we got some few more good things for you coming up next.
Rebecca Turner.
She's back.
Now back to Good Things with Rebecca Turner on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fm.
It's been fun today talking on good things, learning about some of the healthy foods. I always go to unhealthy, but healthy foods that you've never tried before. But many of you probably have tried a kiwi. And I say that because the lady who introduced America to kiwis actually passed away this year at the age of 96. Her name was Frida Kaplan. You may actually know the lady. But if you ever stop and wonder all these sort of fruits that were not our ancestors' fruits here in Mississippi, so to speak, they had to be introduced to us in some capacity, and now they're household names. So she is considered the kiwi queen, and it's all because she opened up her market, and she came across this fruit that was grown in New Zealand, and it was called the Chinese gooseberry. So that is actually the real name of kiwi. And she thought that it should be called a kiwi fruit because it looked like or resembled
The little kiwi bird.
the kiwi bird in New Zealand, and decided it would be better marketed in her store here in America or whatever. So she did. So in 1962, kiwis started to be marketed and took over here in America. I think that's so cool. And she's also credited for bringing more than 200 different exotic fruits and vegetables into our sort of food systems. The Meyer lemons, the habanero peppers. You mentioned it earlier, the Jicama. Jicama. And then other things like the African horned melon and the yellow dragon fruit. Those were all, I'm sure they were here probably in some capacity, but she has been given credit for scouring the planet for these type of exotic fruits and vegetables, and then figuring out a distribution chain to getting them here to America. I think that's pretty cool. I would have never thought, I never stopped to think, how did the kiwi make it to my Kroger or my Walmart or my local Ramey's or whatever it may be?
Yeah, that never crossed my mind.
It never crosses your mind. But the sweet little woman, Miss Frida, who passed away at the age of 96, she was the one who, and you wonder if she didn't, would have somebody else figured it out? And
Maybe.
What new vegetable or fruit is out there that in, 20 years will be considered a household name that we'd never tried before? Maybe it's the dragon fruit that someone on the C Spire text line asked. Jackfruit.
Oh, yeah, the jackfruit. I have never purchased a jackfruit, like the big spiky melon-looking thing. Looks like an alien egg. But I have had it it came in a pouch. And it was already ready to go. You just had to throw it in the skillet and cook it with a sauce, and it was only $1 on clearance, so that's why I grabbed it to try it. And I was oddly surprised. I'd read about it, and even on the packaging, it said it has a taste similar to pulled pork. And I would say the taste isn't what's similar. It's the texture. And it's kind of eerie at first.
Because you don't want the words fruit and pork.
Right. Yes and no. I don't
pork's mind
good
eating
with pineapple and
stuff
like that.
Pork is good with pineapple.
Right.
I don't want to hear about a fruit that tastes like pork.
And the sauce and everything that came in this packet was a vinegary barbecue style sauce. And that's why I think people associate it with pulled pork, is because it did taste really good with a barbecue style sauce. And it pulls apart into fibers just like pork shoulder when you pull it for pulled pork. So the texture is similar enough to where if you coated it in sauce and you weren't really paying attention, you might think it was pulled pork.
I think there's a lot of crock pot, Instapot type recipes. I may have missed it. I know you just said it, but did you have to cook it down for a while to get it to?
Yeah, it was 15, 20 minutes in the skillet, but it was good.
But it was good. Richard from Wigan says it's expensive. And that's part of
Yeah, that's why I never bought the big gigantic thing, but I did find it on clearance. So look on the clearance aisle.
There you go. There's maybe an interesting way to eat jackfruit. I've never purchased it. I guess I've never tried it. So even I'm learning today some of these, healthy style foods that we see in our grocery store every week. We just don't, for whatever reason, pick it up. For the most part, Richard hits it on the head. Hits it on the hell of the head. It's expensive, and you don't want to waste your grocery budget on trying something sort of new. I like that grocery stores, I like when grocery stores offer taste tests of different varieties. They used to do them more in, I guess you would call them boutique type grocery stores, but I wish more your everyday grocery stores would do a better job of, because they have the little the different brands and stuff can come out and send people to cook up a jackfruit for you and sell, and give you a taste test versus some of the stuff you already know tastes good, like whatever comes out of the freezer section that's on dough crust in terms of pizza or whatever it may be. Have those healthier foods sort of tasted. All right, so your good thing homework for the week is to purchase one of these things we talked about today you had never tried. I would be more likely to try a jackfruit out of all of them. I don't know what to do with a plantain, and I'm not good at dessert making. But those are the only two that I came up with that I had personally never tried. Thank you for all your comments. You guys really do make Good Things great. Catch us over on the Good Things Facebook group. The conversation never ends there. But you got Sports Talk Mississippi coming up next from 3 to 6. Rhino and I will be back on Monday. But until then, take time for the good things.